I want to thank Okusku, Mr. Stephen Yemeraniro, Nkugambe.
I am impressed that out of the meetings we have had, out of a total of 14 million cooperators in this country, 10 million consent to the cooperative bank. What do they need to do? They need to, one, buy shares in this bank. They can actually capitalize this bank themselves. We have cooperatives, we have circles which are as rich as some commercial banks. So when these people put their resources together, they will be able to have access to credit. And when they have access to credit, that credit will assist them at a moderate interest rate. Then too, we shall not have the repatriation. The money that they will manufacture, the money that they will get as a result of their profits will be reinvested. It will be part of the circle. It will be part of the cooperative. Now, is it viable? Yes, it is viable. For example, things change. We have now the law. The law in place makes it compulsory that a bank by a cooperative bank is answerable to the Bank of Uganda for day-to-day management systems. They will also be able to have board of directors. They will take their own trend. The board of directors will be like other directors in other banks. And so we'll be able to compete with these people.
So when you talk about cooperatives in this country, then you are looking at a very bigger constituency, especially serving the smallholder farmers. That is where we come from. And also the SMEs, small and medium enterprises. So that one clearly shows that cooperatives are developmental pillars for this country. If this country is to social and economically transform, like our president usually mentions, then we need cooperatives as vehicles. Why? Because cooperatives bring many people in the equation. Unlike capitalism, which supports individuals, cooperativism supports everybody. That's the difference. However, as we move, there are challenges. Of course, these challenges are not only for Uganda, but global. One of them is cooperative education. Like here I've been mentioning, as a country, we still have a challenge of cooperative education as compared to other countries and especially our neighbors. When we come to history, cooperative education in this country started in 1954 at Nsamizi, and then 1963, government established a cooperative college at Bukarasa, which later went to Chigumba in 1974. And why was it established? It's because cooperatives then were very strong cooperatives in the country. The unions, Banyankole Kwetera, Nabo, Gisu, Sebei, Eregon, Isacholi, West Acholi, West Nile, Kigezi, they were very strong, Nyakatonzi, very strong unions, which really needed cooperative education. However, the challenge we still have is that since 1964, the two cooperative colleges that we have in this country, that is Chigumba and Tororo, are still offering certificates and diplomas, when actually our neighbors in Kenya and Tanzania have gone up to PhD level. I'm a student of Moshi, PhD cooperatives. Now, Moshi University started as a cooperative college on the 5th of January 1963, but currently it has an enrollment of over 10,000 students from certificate up to PhD in cooperatives. Cooperative College of Kenya was established in 1967 and is now, since last year, they are now admitting PhD students. So I want to tell the listeners and the viewers that for you to understand the cooperatives, it's not like coming here for one day or reading a small textbook and you think you understand the cooperatives. Cooperatives are broader. That's why our neighbors are teaching cooperatives from certificate up to PhD level. So I want to call upon our government, our good government, that let us invest a lot in cooperative education. As Uganda Cooperative Alliance, we have started negotiations with our neighbors, working with our giant University Makerere to see how we can establish or start cooperative education in the country. And I hope it will be done because we are in high gear. Now, back to why we are here. Today, we are in Mbarara meeting all cooperatives in Western region. Now, we are meeting cooperative unions. Banyankole Kweterana, Kigezi of Kabale, and the one of Rukunjiri, then, and others, area cooperative enterprises, savings and credit cooperative organizations, water and environment cooperatives, PDM, Emyoga circles, they are all converging here. But of course, we have not brought everybody. We picked a few representing districts and other areas, but more specifically looking at how they are performing. And why they are here, two things. They are here, number one, for training, capacity building. Number two, we are here to consult on the establishment of the National Cooperative Bank. I want the viewers and listeners to know that long time ago in this country, we had a cooperative bank. The cooperative bank was established in 1964. That was the time when the unions were very strong. As the country would talk and the whole world would listen, because the economy was in the hands of Ugandans who were members of cooperatives. Unlike today, where we have capitalists, that time we had the cooperativism, where people, my father, your father, who are members of cooperatives, had money. So, the cooperative bank was later closed by the central bank on the 19th of May 1999. But as cooperators, we don't give up. Eventually, we have come together to start a new bank. Why did the other one collapse? It's because when the cooperative unions and societies collapsed, then automatically, since these ones were roots of the cooperative bank, it's like a tree. Once you cut off the branches, the roots of a tree, automatically the tree will not survive. So likewise, when these societies and unions collapse due to several reasons, including civil wars, and then the economic restructuring, plus even the legal and regulatory framework, then automatically the cooperative bank was affected. But now where we have reached, we all realize that we have very strong cooperatives in this country. We have circles which are bigger than commercial banks. Wazalendo circle for the army has now reached $1 trillion in terms of portfolio. Look at the parliamentarian circle, the UN circle. Look at the Exodus circle. Look at the rural circles here, Ebo, Ruchiga, Ryamujungu, Mushanga. They are so big now. So even if you brought like 4 circles now, consolidating their portfolios, they have the capacity to establish a bank. So where we are now, yes, we have the financial muscle to come back and have our bank. And what will this bank do? Specifically, why are we talking about the cooperative bank and yet we have other commercial banks and MFIs? The answer is very clear. The banks, the commercial banks we are looking at, commercial banks are focusing on profits. They are profit-oriented financial institutions. They are not focusing on addressing the needs, especially the needs of the smallholder farmers. We all know as Ugandans that this government has endeavored to support the smallholder farmers through different programs. Look at the youth livelihood fund. Look at the women entrepreneurship fund. Look at the agricultural credit facility, which is within the banks, but the smallholder farmers are not accessing this money. Why? Because of the requirements by the banks. So we are coming in at that angle. The fact that the government has done a lot to support the smallholder farmers, but the research still indicates that there is a very big financing gap in the country. The 39% of Ugandans are unbanked. So we come in from that angle of establishing a bank that will address the needs of these people. A bank that will provide affordable and appropriate finance. Affordability is in terms of costs. How much is a loan? For example, if you took a loan today from a commercial bank, how much is the interest rate? If you went to borrow money from a money lender, how much is the interest rate? All that we are putting it into context. Then appropriateness is in terms of comparing the loan period and the terms vis-a-vis the gestation period of our crops. Take an example of coffee. You go to a commercial banker today to borrow money to grow coffee. Coffee, you start harvesting in 3 years' time, but the banker gives you money. Today, we are in May, but June 8th, they want the first installment. The question is to a farmer, is this an agricultural loan? How do you give me money, call it an agricultural loan, but you want me to start paying before I even finish plowing the garden? So ideally, we have a challenge that we need to address. But how a cooperative bank operates here, how it was, and what it is in Kenya, what it is in other countries like Netherlands. A cooperative bank supports the farmers, supports the smallholders, the SMEs, and is answerable and responds to the ultimate needs of these clusters of people. What it does, it works through the cooperative structures. If, for example, you are coffee farmers, the banker will take money to the union, the coffee union. The coffee union takes the money to a primary society. Now, if Ivan is a coffee farmer and is a member of a society, if I am here like today, here at Perican, I'm training and they call me, my child, my wife has been admitted in hospital, I don't need to run to a money lender to get a loan at exorbitant rate. But what I do, I now call the manager of the society and say, manager, I have an emergency. I need 1 million. Because I bring coffee at the end of the season, I do not need even a guarantor because my security is the coffee. So the manager will process 1 million, I get the money, and then when I harvest the coffee, they deduct the advance and I have the balance. That is how the model works. But this time around, because we don't have a commercial bank, a cooperative bank, I am telling you Ugandans, and you all know this, that farmers are selling gardens. Garden is not produce. Before the coffee has started flowering, you go to a money lender and you surrender your coffee. Very cheaply, the money lender gives you money. All these middlemen, people dealing in the coffee, gets your coffee, you surrender it, and then when the coffee, during harvesting time, Bambi, the money lender makes money. For you, the farmer, you remain poor. That is the reason I've been asking myself, why is it that farmers are poor? And I want the academia to answer me. I want the politicians to answer my question. Why is it that a farmer is poor, but the middleman is rich? Who is supposed to be richer than the other? Ideally, it should be me, the farmer, as long as I have control over my produce. But the control can only happen if these farmers are working together, coordinated together through a cooperative. But as long as they stay and remain working individually, then these middlemen and the money lenders will take advantage of these people and they continue to exploit them. So as a country, strategically, we need to be looking at how do you mobilize these people through cooperatives, like it has happened in Europe. I have visited Europe, I've gone to America, I've seen Asia. For them, back home, they use cooperativism. Cooperativism is where all people are encouraged, and even by policy, they work through cooperatives. But when they cross over and come to Africa, they teach us capitalism. Why? Because they know capitalism will benefit them not here. They know they have multinational companies which will come to Africa and make money, exploit Africans, will remain poor, and they make money. That's why the word poor means passing on opportunities repeatedly. You donate your wealth, you donate your wealth, instead of considering you a donor, they consider you a beggar. It is very unfortunate. So that is why we are here today as cooperators, one, to deliberate and agree on establishment of the bank, and then two, address issues of capacity. And issues of capacity, we are looking at the governance and management of cooperatives. We are looking at risk management. We are looking at understanding the cooperative ideology, the principles, values, and strategic focus for cooperatives. We are also looking at the legal policy and regulatory framework in addition to resource mobilization. So this is why we are here, and we have, like I've explained, we have different types and forms of cooperatives in Western region. So far we have already covered Northern region. Yesterday we came from Fort Potro, Midwest. Today we are here in Mbarara. Next week we shall go to Central and then Eastern region. So that when we cover the entire country, we will consolidate the resolutions of these people, of the cooperators, especially on issues of the cooperative bank. I'm happy to inform the country that where we have been, cooperators have unanimously agreed that we need a cooperative bank. And secondly, they have agreed to capitalize their bank. They have also thirdly requested the government that, yes, government, thank you so much for creating avenues for Ugandans to progress. However, the money is scattered. We have the youth livelihood fund somewhere. We have the agricultural credit facility in the commercial banks. We have the women entrepreneurship fund in other banks. Why don't you now that the cooperative bank is going to be born, why don't we now bring all these resources in one basket so that all Ugandans can access this money and develop this country? It is very unfortunate. Take an example of coffee. You grow coffee here, you take your 3 years. A farmer get price. Currently, as we're inside the room, the coffee farmers are explaining that currently a farmer gets around 6,000 to 7,000 shillings per kilo. That means a farmer now is receiving that much, 7,000. But the same coffee is exported to Europe. In Switzerland, processed, Nescafe comes back to Mbarara in a supermarket. When you are to look at, if you are to aggregate, then you find a kilogram of Nescafe. It's between 150 to 200,000. Now the question is to all Ugandans, who is making money out of coffee? Is it the farmer or is it the processor? Ideally, the processor is making more money than the farmer. That means Europeans are making more money in coffee than Africans who are growing coffee. So what do we do? The solution to this problem is where the coffee farmers come together, aggregate their own coffee, process it here. Instead of exporting raw coffee, let us export a finished product. And yes, it is possible. I want to thank His Excellency the President. He has encouraged us to add value. Every day is talking about value addition. And I want to thank the government, because the government has supported farmers in the country with the processing facilities. So what is lacking as a country now is acquiring a soluble plant. These other facilities are there, but they are not soluble enough. It is just primary value addition. But we are looking now at having a soluble plant. And I want to tell the listeners, if the cooperators came together, put their resources together, with the support of government, we have the capacity to acquire a soluble plant and start processing our own coffee. Instead of exporting a raw coffee, paying a farmer 7,000, the farmer can even now start getting 100,000 per kilo. That is how the farmers are going to be liberated in this country. Nyewani chinsasa munonga kushanga ngo ryo muntu oshomero ryokwe konka nibashomesa abana bito mu za second, ushanga nibashomesa umwana nibamushomesa French Revolution, nibamushomesa St. Lawrence we, Tennessee Valley, Canadian Prairies, British Columbia. Hati ebyo nibituyamba chinkabira nkabanya Uganda. Echinkushaba tushime kwa ntushoma ebintu bikutuyamba nkabanya Uganda. Tushome okweterana tukirya hansi abantu bakirya abana nimwe nkaba mahurire ukiza kumara diploma ninga degree yawe ya journalism uba nomanya okweterana ikimanyisa ki mweterana mugura TV ninga mugura radio ebe yanyu itwe nkabalisa 20 tweterana kuba tushomire konkati no shango umuntu ashomire oku research ekozirwe neyoreka ngo okutukweyongera kushoma mu Uganda niko bakweyongera abakubuzi niko bakweyongera kutuyaho sente nyingi munonga abo kuba tushomere tugamba urujungu rwingi ito mu kushoma kwitu tushomere kugamba urujungu rwingi konka tushomire kutekateka kukurakurana ubuhangwa bwitu na nihanga ryitu. So ito nitushaba kugira ngo government tukwatireho nko kwa mahanga gandi gari ko kuza Tanzania waza Kenya hati nibashomesa cooperatives kuruga ahansi kwekaha iba kweta PhD ningasha ahidara rya muheru umukushoma konko kije mu Uganda ushanga cooperatives nibazishomesa twine Kigumba na Tororo konkani tushomesa certificates na diplomas bwenu nkabire ni nshaba kugira ngo usite mamani mengi cooperatives ezitwi no mu Uganda n'abantu cooperators ningashi abeteri no kuba kwingana tuteke henkora kugira ngo omu education system yitu ningo mu kushoma kwitu tutandike tushome cooperative education niyera tuyambe ekakurakura n'ibibintu byitu nihanga ryo natutwariramo.
Stephen Bongonza is a senior banker and we have been working very closely because he's the vice chairperson of Okusu. So we have been working very closely on issues of circles, issues of taxation. We went to